Yep. So gonna start refurbishing a few things. So if you watch the process for this, one thing was just establishing all the decomposition here. Um, so all the big shapes and stuff. I'm not like I won't be here pretending that I'm a great environment artist, but I have done environment art like professionally. It's just I haven't done it in a while. So like there's certain things where I'm not going to be able to see the mistakes right off the bat because of my relative inexperience to uh, environment paintings and stuff. So um, one thing I was oh, this is my signature, so I'm gonna lock that. Not so. One thing is I'm kind of wary of the contrast here. So even slightly, like a lot of times if you're working on a painting for too long, your sense of contrast kind of skews because you get too used to it. So once you reset your eyes, like you give it like a week or two, like or even a day, you get to see the mistakes with like how the lighting is working and does it read properly. The other thing I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of reds to the darks, just because I feel like the dark passages were a little bit too stagnant. They're not really interesting. So a lot of times if you're ever using black, you're gonna have to mix it with some other colors because it's like you don't want to just have black, right? It's just kind of it's pretty boring and like you like generally speaking a rule of thumb is just don't use pure white and don't use pure black. So like adding a bit of red means that it's sort of like mixing a little bit of red in there, just making it a little bit more interesting. um the other thing was I feel like some of the details were kind of off here. So I'm um when OBS crashes, the problem is I have to re-render the video, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. So one thing is I'm making sure that the it's not too cartoony, but I can leave it as sort of like a more like it's not going to be like a perfect like in that anatomical wolf where I render every bone and fur on his body, right? So just because it's far away, like a far wider shot, like so like there's no need to have all the details there, but I do want to make sure that the lighting makes sense. So like I noticed that I feel like I could darken the far like the near side of the wolf a little bit more, just so that it feels like it's being lit by the backlight here a little bit more, and I could make a reflected light passage on reflected light passage just to make it, like I'm picturing like a cylinder. This wolf is like a cylinder, like that sort of thing, So I can always just picture the lighting as if I'm rendering a cylinder. So that looks it's very subtle, but like it does do little things to improve it here and there here. Yeah. And like the other thing is like the body type of the girl kind of shifted a little bit. So like while it is a far shot, I do want to make sure that the silhouette reads like the character like properly. I don't want to make something that is too egregiously off from the character. So yeah, so this is already a little bit better. There are little things here and there that I need to fix. So like for example, I'm really not feeling some of these light passages because it's taking away from the composition. So a lot of these light passages are creating like it's catching too much attention. I do want to have a bit of light to bounce off the wolf and stuff, but like I don't need it to be too strong. And it's something that again, like once you readjust your vision, you'll start to see a lot of like these subtle contrasting type of mistakes here. Yeah, so Yeah. Um, I could introduce the greens and blues a little bit. I did like the greens. Like, I feel like it might be leaning towards the, like, having a bit of green in there. Yeah, okay, so yeah, the reds were a little bit too strong. So in this case, just adding a little bit of greens throughout the entire piece will make it a little bit more interesting here. So, like, one thing is, of course, you can always zoom out and see if there's potentially anything you can. There, like, being able to see the bigger picture is pretty important. So, it's good to zoom out every so often just to get a glimpse of how it looks here. Is there a way to make it more contrasting? Hmm. Yeah, it's a tough consideration on what I need here, just because there's a lot of things where, yeah, there's something really weird about this. I'm gonna try to make the wolf a little bit lighter. No, I don't think that's it. Actually, no, it might be. The composition was balanced around the wolf being pretty light, so it might be just that issue here. I don't like this. Yeah, there. Even though this is wrong per se, I don't think the changes I made in the past like 10 minutes was correct. So a lot of times it's like you gotta consider like, am I really keeping the mood of the piece, and it wasn't happening there. Even though like I could be like, okay, something might be. I could say like, how do I say it? Something might be technically correct, but it's not aesthetically pleasing. In that case, I was starting to take away from the feeling of the original piece here. So I'm gonna have to think about other ways of tackling this without killing the sense of the mood. Like, the one that I created was a little bit too dark, and it started to lose the mystical force feeling that this one had. So I'm trying to decide what I can do here. I think, like, worst comes to worst, I just add details here and there, like just carve out a few shapes that might inspire. This is where I'll say like my inexperience with environments really sucks, because obviously if you're more experienced, you'll be able to see um, types of mistakes as like very early. Whereas if you're inexperienced, a lot of times you I like the you won't be able to see the mistakes, and also you won't be able to see how you're gonna fix it in a proper way. So even like here, I feel like, so the same thing. I wasn't really sure about that area because it was a little bit too light for me. Um, Let me see from the other monitor if it's working. So of course I gotta fix the silhouette here. Yeah, so the girl can do that here. Um, so one thing to consider is I'll try it out, but I feel like there's not enough places to rest. And what I mean by this is something I learned from a bit from Sam Nielsen is from Lightbox Expo last week is that light should have sharp edges in a lot of cases, and in this case, I feel like everything has become so soft that it kind of loses the feeling of it, the feeling of light here. So I'm gonna just sharpen a little bit. It might be even be the shape that I'm creating here that I'm not happy with, and I'll definitely try it out here. Something about that feels really good. That might be a change that, yeah. My apologies. So yeah, so I was saying something I wanted to consider is just like where the lights are in the piece, and are they creating interesting shapes, and do they make sense? So, even doing that, the background trees are a bit, were a bit too dark in my take. It was taken away from the depth. So where the lights will show is kind of important. Um, so even that, I feel like it's already improving it a lot. Now I need to, like, of course, add the details to make sure that the the passages are reading right. Yeah, something like that. Even like adding a little bit of rim here, on the tree can really create a sense that there's light coming from the background there. I'll even merge the layer now, knowing that it works. But yeah, like a lot of times, like again, like these things, like you like one thing you want to aim for is that you want to improve, like you want to keep working and improving, and a lot of times, especially when you're starting out, that there are a lot of cases where the next week you'll find mistakes of pieces that you made like a week ago. So that's always a good sign. But that's not to say that you should always revisit your pieces like I do, your old pieces. But because I am making a book and technically nobody is supposed to look at this until they get the book. I get to, like, I really want to make sure that I get the stuff, like the message that I want with the piece, and make it as good as possible, because again, because it's for professional quality work, for publishing, so I need to make sure that it looks as good as I can possibly make it before I show it to others. Like, I'm feeling a bit of light passages here. So similar to what I said, like when I was working on this weeks ago, sometimes I would just put I'll put the colors that I want on somewhere, and justify it later. Because I, like, a lot of times, yeah, if you need a color, just put it down, and like you're gonna, it's better to have the aesthetics than to try to be logical with those aesthetics. Again, I mean, like, there's limitations to, what you can get away with. So like I'll always use the example where, like, chances are I can't really put like a giant robot in this piece to fix a composition. Even though I really want, like, let's say I need a really big person in the background, and I can make it a robot, but like, because of the context of the story, you can't do that. So like there are limitations to that mentality, but otherwise, like, who's to say, like, if I put like another dark passage, I can't put another tree down or that sort of thing. So and of course, if you have any questions, just let me know on the Wolves Den channel here, and I'll try to answer. Just because, again, like, I say this every single time, I try to avoid, like, just talking to myself. It'll be more apparent when it comes to Twitch, because there is a chat, so hopefully people will ask questions there, and I won't have to just talk to myself here. Yeah, so I'm already feeling this is a lot stronger, just because I'm simplifying the pat. So this is the old version. I'm simplifying this area here. So like it makes it a lot cleaner. So now it feels like the you're more likely to look at the wolf. So it's honestly honestly like from a standpoint it's very subtle, but like these things stack up. Like again, like art is one of those professions where like little things become big things as they continue to stack up. Oh, thank you for the yeah. You were here in the original process for this, right? So yeah, you saw how it started. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where like again, like because I'm not too familiar with environments, I'm gonna I'll screw up, and it'll take me like weeks to kind of go back and see the mistakes I made, right? So like it's part and course on what I expect to happen. Yeah, so yeah, even that even that is really good. Like much better. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's an interesting way to. Yeah, they're literally cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's so yeah. One thing is of course like everyone has their way of denoting certain things. So in this case, I have to sell a mystical forest. So like when I think mystical forest, I think of Princess Mononoke or something. And Princess Mononoke uses a lot of green, like cool greens. I mean, and blues and yeah, and that sort of thing. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, yeah, that's the most important part. Like beyond all the technical stuff I try to tell people, like the most important part is just making sure that you're telling your message here. So one thing I'm highly considering right now is just making the composition a little bit squishier. It might seem very minute, but I think this is the right choice. So like one thing is I'm not feeling I don't really like the composition being having too much of a space at the top, because it's just like a balance thing. It wasn't really balancing properly for me, so like I'm gonna like squishing it a little bit makes it a little bit more cinematic, and again something that I wouldn't have noticed if I were just doing it straight on. Sometimes you'll hear about stories where like the master paintings that you see throughout history, some of them could take many years to finish. Of course we have digital paint, but like in the past they had to wait for oils to dry, and if they make a mistake they're gonna have to wait for it to dry and paint over again to wait for it to dry again, that sort of thing. So that's why like a lot of times like by the time they finish it over the years they would have made something really crazy good, because it was years of decision making, right? It's not just like nowadays where art has become so fast because of digital, but like a lot of times sometimes you need to kind of step back and slow down a little bit to pick off any mistakes that you might have made, and as you improve as well as an artist. Because for me, like I definitely improved just doing this sort of book, so it's one of those things where it helps. I'm feeling a little bit of contrast here, just a little bit, not too much. So one thing I want to consider is just how if there's going to be a little bit of fogginess to it. I feel like there should be, because I need to break up a little bit of the shape here. It was kind of getting a little bit too dark, I think. Yeah. Like even something like that. Like so again, like I don't know what exactly is going to be there, but I'm feeling a little bit of um I'm feeling a little bit of mid-tones over there, so we'll see what it creates. So let's contrast with the original here. So already much better, in my opinion, of course. Just cause like again, like I'm simplifying some of the regions, the areas, so that it makes it a little bit more readable. Um, and yeah, it's just one of those things where you always have new ideas on revisiting some of your old pieces, and this is one of those cases. Um, I'm considering a few things here. Give me a second. I'm gonna get a bit of reference here. I'm gonna get a bit of reference while. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, like one thing was I'm thinking about the tree thing here. It was too big of a shape, but I also want to retain that feeling because it was really, yeah, something like that. So like I can keep this large trunk thing, but I want to make sure that um I break up the shape so it doesn't look like in the original version there was just a really dark triangle at the corner, which is a big no-no. Um, but just being able to like I'm getting reference for roots, by the way, tree roots and stuff. Just getting a bit of reference on how just tree roots and stuff makes it so that it's a little bit more interesting to look at. Um, Now, one other consideration is I'm not too sure if I need the top dark passage there. I'm highly considering destroying it just because I feel like it's killing. There's some justification for it, but I'm gonna try removing that. Just temporarily. I don't know exactly what's gonna look like, but I'm starting to feel it's not necessary. And I think it's not necessary. I'm gonna have to make the trees a little bit more interesting now because I don't have the cut of the dark tree branch, but I'm yeah, I definitely feel like that was a big mistake on my part. Yeah, something like that. Especially since I crunched the composition a little bit. Now that I did that, it's not necessary to have like such a dark, like strong passage of darkness just covering the entire top of the canvas there. Um, there are definitely ways to just bring the viewer back down to the wolf here, and we didn't need that anymore. So yeah. I'll have to make these trees a little bit more interesting, so I'm gonna again go up to Pinterest and get some forest reference to see some interesting shapes of forest trees. It's very important, like just making sure that your stuff reads as trees and like without making it too stagnant. So again, like a lot of times if you watch like Princess Mononoke or some other really forest oriented animation, the backgrounds will have much more varied trees than like an actual forest, which is of course a design decision. Um, so like one thing is of course, yeah, I'm just gonna like copy Princess Mononoke. There's a lot of really cool tree shapes, and I'm gonna just I'm like whatever. Like it's 1998. Like it came out in 1998. I'm just gonna take some of their design aesthetics. Why not, right? So like even stuff like this, I'm gonna have to. So I have to be very careful about leaving dark passages there because it's um, we want to denote the fact that darkness is closer to the foreground. So we don't once you leave any passages of darkness in the background, it starts to conflict with that. Um, so I'm going to try a few things. I'm going to try to lighten it a little bit. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Just because, again, like I'm just talking to myself right now. I'm thinking out loud. Like usually, like everything you hear me talking about right now is something I'll be thinking in my head. Um, sort of my thought processes and like why I'm changing things. Like I have to justify it in my head before I put it down. So here is just like I'm making sure. Yeah, so something like that. I still think that looks a little bit quirky here. Yeah, it's probably too parallel, so it's creating like a weird trying like it's just a too perfect of a tree. So I'll probably break that down a little bit. Break it down a little bit. So yeah. So like there's already a considerable difference. Like it might be a little bit more Princess Mononoke, but honestly like whatever. It's like copying Ghibli is not like exactly a terrible thing. So but I definitely like this a lot better. A lot better than the other one. Creates more creates a more like a grander sense of the forest, if that makes sense. This one's a little bit more closed in, and it felt a little bit artificial. This one is a little bit more natural to me. Um, trying to find more reference here on the backgrounds. Never be afraid to get more reference as you go along. Like people can get really lazy with that, but like if you need reference, just do it. Like we have internet here, so I'm liking this a lot more. This is actually much stronger. Um, I'm glad I took the time to think about whether this is as good as it can get. Like, could I even make it a little bit more contrasting? Give me a second here. No, I don't think the blues are necessary here. Mm, yeah, I'm. So what's missing here? I think I know. It has to do with the fact that the wolf is the only one who has this glowing light. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add random patches of really strong light, and what it's gonna do is that what was happening is of course the wolf is a little bit too the in like I made the wolf glowing quite a bit, and nothing else is glowing at the same time, which doesn't make sense because if this environment is lit by the same things, then there should be at least a feeling of light um, somewhere else as well. The same intensity of the light. So my take is either I'm gonna die down the light on the wolf, or I'm gonna introduce more passages of light throughout the piece to unify with the wolf. So I'm gonna. So even that was already much better. Just adding very subtle patches of light. This is not working, unfortunately. Maybe it's a little bit of both too. Like, maybe I have to die down the wolf a little bit, just so that it doesn't take too much attention. And yes, there is something where there's too much attention, but you just gotta be very careful here. Yeah, it's already much better. It's not like even subtle passage of light really helps in that regard. Um, I am considering God rays. Hmm. Let me get some reference here. Yeah, I think I'm feeling some God rays. Or at least, wait, maybe something else is in order here. If I could, so like, okay, so like one thing you get from referencing like Princess Mononoke is that you get to see how they solve certain issues. So one thing I'm thinking about is just maybe perhaps doing what they did, and introducing God rays and also very light passages at the top of the forest to give a sense of to bounce off the areas around. I'll reiterate that. So the wolf is creating a big passage of like very weighted power here. So what I'm thinking about is whether I should you take some of that and bring it up to the top so that the top area would have shared colors with the wolf. Yeah. Yeah, that could work. I'm going to try. Yeah, a lot of times, like in Princess Mononoke, you'll see that they use a lot of god rays just so that it's cool. It looks cool, but also like it leads the audience back to where they want you to look at. So it's pretty important to really consider how other like more of course like better artists like whoever works at Studio Ghibli just being able to see what they do to solve issues, and then you can borrow some of that to your own. Of course, like you don't want to copy them, right? Like you don't want to just get like draw Princess Mononoke again or something. Then it kind of becomes a little bit too on the nose. But yeah, even something like this, like I'm already feeling there's a little bit. This could work. Just being able to bring some of that. I had it in the original piece as well, but being able to bring some of that God ray lighting can lead the eye back into the character on the right there. One thing I am gonna have to I want to make sure of is that I can rotate this without a problem, because I don't know like which orientation it's going to be finalized in. It depends on how I arrange the books. So like, the wolf could be very much on the right side, but we'll see. We'll see what is needed. Uh, so what else could work here? It might be. It might have overcomplicated a little bit. I'm trying to think if I could simplify some of the. Yeah. So one thing I'm considering is that this area here is a little bit too strong. Um. So there has to be something. So every composition there has to be somewhere where it's just a respite, like just a place where the viewer can really rest their eyes, and there's just too many just so many things going on that there's not much of a way to rest the eye. So even like something like this might be helpful here. Of course, the shape is gonna have to change depending on what I need. So like even doing that now, I feel like this is a bit too vertical. Okay, so the other consideration, I could do something like this. I could even crunch the composition a little bit more, but does it work? I'll figure it out. But so now that we created that, we do have to consider like the shapes which are closer to us. So this is catching too much attention now. It could even be something like this, like just completely die it down, because one thing is it's kind of conflicting with it was conflicting with the tree in the foreground here, which we established as a dark passage. So we do want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with our perceptions here by having darks in the background. That's not too bad. Yeah, there is a better sense of depth here. I will merge this, just because I feel like it is definitely worth working with. I can always bring some of the darks in the bottom right side to bounce it off, but other than that, like this is already a huge improvement. Yeah, so again, like I'm gonna try out the God rays that I see in my reference, Princess Mononoke here. Worst comes to worst, I can always dye down the midtones a little bit. Does it work? I mean, I could do this as well. Very high contrast. I was thinking about this as well. But that might be a little bit too extreme. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, makes it a little bit more interesting. Yeah. Let's go with this for now. I can always illuminate the areas that went really dark. So like this tree here started losing shape because of the contrast. But other than that, there's merit to keeping it to darken things like that. So one thing is, of course, I'm looking at reference. Mentioned that many times. So I do want to make sure that the trees look like they're in shadow in certain areas, just because they're starting to be a little bit too flat as a shape, because the light is going this side, like that. So yeah, this looks a lot better. So this is starting to get just really Princess Mononoke here. The golden standard of painting forests and what everybody copies. I don't like this dark passage here. Very annoying. Yeah, this is not working. So something like that. Bring back some of the lights in the foreground here. So again, like I really don't want to make a dark triangle like that cuts like that. That was in the original, which is this. So this already reads so much better. Like this was around like 2 hours, 3 hours of work. So just adding like an hour shows you how much it can do. Of course, after reviewing it, but you can see the potential this one has. So I again, like now that I've established that there's a light coming this way, I want to make sure that the trees get the shadows. There's going to be the signature textural brushes that I use, just so that it makes it more interesting, but at the same time, like, because this is a forest, you can kind of justify it with leaves or that sort of thing. So I'm not too worried about like being too precise with like where the leaves are and like every individual leaf, right? But I just want to have the colors down and let the viewers figure out what it might look like. So this is yeah, so like so like what I'm doing right now, I'm just gonna slam some of the light colors here. I'm feeling there should be lights somewhere shining here in this region, but I don't want to. I'm not too sure what it is right now. So, but I just want it there, just so that for a frame of reference. Very nice. So one thing I want to mention is that I want to keep it to 1 hour streams. So like, if you have any questions, let me know because there's around 15 minutes left. So if you have any questions, just put it down. I'll try to answer it within the last bit of time we have left here. This is a little bit awkward of a shape. Yeah, very awkward of a shape. I'm gonna consider perhaps dyeing it down a little bit, just cause, yeah. This shape will have to change somehow. I'm not too sure what it is, but one thing I don't want is like if you ever see compositions where they have like a curve doing this, it starts to edge the canvas a little bit too much, and it's really not a great thing to have. Just a big no-no. Maybe something like this instead. Gonna look at more reference really quickly. Yeah, I could have a tree where I am going to. Yeah, like the coming from the left or the right thing is it's like I do prefer on the left, but like again, like if like let's like I haven't wrote the whole story down yet. Like I do have like I like the in terms of the actual text of it, but like let's say the story is that the girl and the wolf is going from east to west or something, then obviously like if we're gonna try to be reasonable about it, then we have to go with like from east to west. This would literally be like right to left, right? So it's one of those things where I'm kind of keeping it like it can go from either way just because I don't know exactly what the directions of the world will be yet. That's stuff that can always change, right? It's not like the major story issue. So like yeah, it's not a big deal if I have to make it on the right here or make it on the left here. It's like literally a negligible part. But yes, I do think that some compositions they do look better where they're situated at, but it's like sometimes it's just better to be logical, and I don't know what the logic will be yet per se. So we'll see what happens. Go look at my reference again. No, the branches, okay, definitely. So I was considering putting back the branch that I had, but I'm not feeling it. Definitely, I definitely think it's not necessary. Foreground elements of that power is dangerous because it can kill the sense of depth. So that's something I have to be really careful of whenever I do that. Honestly, I'm really liking this. definitely a big change from this. But this is a little bit too cozy. This feels like a grand forest, right? This feels like a big forest, and that's really what I wanted the entire time. It took a little bit of studying. It took a little bit of time to really sit down and think about it, but and review what I did. But yeah, this is definitely coming together. Even though it's a little bit too Princess Mononoke-ish, but it's whatever. So one thing I want to consider is the plants in the field. So like um there could be more interesting like strokes of paint here or there, just so that it creates a nicer sense. Yeah, I will keep the tree there. I do think there has to be something that leads the viewer in like this. But yes, I will. I will have to define the. I will have to define the tree. It's something that yeah, I have to be super careful of because it's yeah. What's gonna so what the lighting will be is so we have a strong. I have to use red because I can't. It's not gonna be seen. There's a strong light like doing something like this right from the background here. Something like that. So this is the main light, right? Main light, and then from the main light, there will be use a different color here. There will be a smaller reflected light because of this main light bouncing off something in the foreground back into like this. So what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna make a rim light. Whatever the shape of the tree is, there should be a rim light because it's in the foreground. And then I'll figure that out because I don't know the exact shape of this foreground tree. But what's gonna happen, of course, is that the small light will like the smaller light from the background will reflect back in. God, they're gonna be a light like this, and it's gonna define most of the foreground tree's features. This is a light that is very common in Studio Ghibli movies. So like a lot of times like again like when you are making compositions and lighting, you have to think about how you can best portray your piece, right? Once you do that, then you just have to justify it. So, like for instance, like I could easily say, okay, there's absolutely no light coming back, right? So, but like what's going to happen is, of course, from a technical standpoint, the tree is going to look like a dark passage of nothing. But as an artist, you have to be able to tell yourself, okay, I do need a light source in the background from the foreground. I mean, to illuminate the tree in the foreground, make it a bit more interesting. So how am I going to justify um, that sort of rendering? Then you make up the lighting and that sort of thing. Now, of course, there's a foreground tree. I don't really think it needs to be that detailed, but it does need. Yeah, you are right. There has to be some definition, and which there has to be hints of something there, so that it's a little bit more interesting, and it's not killing the piece. Like even something like that, like being able to define some of the branches, that sort of thing really can push this piece together. Yeah. I could even this is a little bit too ambiguous. I could even just bring it like that, and there could be plants in the foreground. It doesn't have to be just tree. There could be leaves. Even when I'm looking at the reference for Princess Mononoke, there's a lot of interesting plants going around, creating silhouettes. Yeah. we don't need to, like, this is the really good thing about impressionism. You don't really need to define everything. Like, we can always leave certain things just there so that people will figure it out for themselves. And oh, I don't like that at all. Where the passage where the midtones are touching the wolf in the back, a little bit ambiguous, a little bit not interesting enough. Yeah. So what I have on the other monitor is a very very zoomed out version of the piece, so I can really see the grander picture. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to really establish certain things. I can always make these areas more interesting, but right now I just feel like there has to be a sense of light somewhere. So that looks much better. Now there's considerations of introducing some of the greens that Princess Mononoke backgrounds tend to have. So I will try to incorporate some of that. Ooh, that this might be a little bit. I'm gonna make a new layer just because I think I'm gonna screw up, but maybe I won't. But thing is, like, I made this piece a little bit too blue now. I really want to introduce some of that greenery that a forest should have. Especially if of course I am massively inspired by Mononoke. So now where would they be? I don't know. I can always make this a little bit more subtle. Yeah. There definitely need to be green. It's just what type of green and where they should be is the real question. Um, one thing I learned from Sam Nielsen is that you can make a luminosity layer, where you get to see the movement of the hues and stuff. So the blues are working very good. Right now I feel like there's not enough greens, so just trying to see from just a hue standpoint where everything is. It's sort of like a heat map. Um, yeah. So just gonna give it a oh, that red. Okay, so that was an accident, but there's a little bit of red here that I just put down that seems to work really well. I think I can introduce some reds, some greens, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Um, that was definitely an accident, but it definitely works a lot better. Um, yeah, I'm gonna merge this. I think it's working. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what happens in art, man. It's one of those things where sometimes you just sometimes you just put like like it happens a lot more in traditional because of the nature of paint, but yeah, like this is really, yeah, that red, the really brownish red was really helpful in that. So what I can do is I can always add a bit of reflected light here. Need a little bit more definition. There's going to be more definition in the foreground as well. I'm not feeling this tree trunk. Might even just bring some of that the brownish type of feel over here, just so that it brings it together. It's it's very subtle. It's very subtle. It's like a greenish, no, it's like a yellowish red brown. Like somewhere around here. I'll use a different color. Somewhere around here. But that is something that seems to work pretty well. Um, it is one of those things where like eventually you get to the point where it just becomes a game of subtlety, like, and like it might not be noticeable in a lot of cases, but it will make a big difference. And again, art is one of those professions where small things accumulate into big differences, and yeah, it's and like as you get more experience, you're gonna start seeing more and more of those subtleties like matter. Um, yeah, it's gonna denote some of the greenery. I'm trying to contemplate if I should just make it green like this. Like, no. No, that's definitely not it. So yeah, it's 3:30. So like, if you have any final questions, let me know. Again, I'm looking to keep this like 1 hour, 1 hour session. I might prolong it like when I start doing the Twitch schedule, which is one stream per week. But for now, I am because I'm doing two per week. I'm want to keep it short. So like, if you have any final questions, let me know before we leave. This came together quite a bit. So like the old version and now the new version. This looks a lot better and what I was anticipating. Closer to what I wanted. AKA just copying Studio Ghibli, but yeah, if there's any final comments, any final questions here, I'm probably gonna leave soon. I honestly haven't had a break in a while, so like it's like yeah, I need a bit of lights there, somewhere there just to bring it over here. No questions? Nobody has any final comments, questions? I really like this area. I can add a few rocks here and there, make it a little bit more interesting. Thank you very much, Omega. Yeah, in terms of colors, like the thing is, I have to be careful about introducing reds, because reds will immediately stand out. But ultimately, I want to make this a very cool painting, right? So like, I could always just do something like this, where, like do this sort of thing. But the problem is, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. The problem is it kind of stands out a little bit too much. So, like, yeah, it depends on how colorful I want it to be. No, there's definitely like merit to putting in some red. Yeah, on the ground. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's just a matter of like how subtle do I want it to be, because ultimately I do love the bluish the backdrop of this piece. There's something really mystifying about this piece that like I want to keep. Remember the first 10 minutes where I was like screwing up and that sort of thing. Like I was trying different things but it wasn't working. A big part of it is again because I couldn't retain the feeling of the mystifying force. So like I have to be very careful what the red will say, even though like I do agree, yes, there should be something on the ground. Sometimes again like it's not a matter of like being technical, it's more like the aesthetics of it, and right now the aesthetics are like exactly what I need. Yeah. That might be true. It might be a bit too green. I'll have to think about it. It's one of those pieces where I'm gonna be revisiting quite a bit because it's such a powerful piece, right? Like if you ever it's sort of like the piece where I would put on right in the front of the Kickstarter to really set the mood straight. Yeah, so like it's one of those things where I will revisit and really make sure I don't screw this up, because like this is a really beautiful piece potentially, and like it's one of those pieces where I would put as like an incentive for Kickstarter. It's like, oh, you get this print, or you get a wallpaper version of this sort of thing. So it's I will have to be very careful what I tell people, like what I say with this piece here, but it is coming along quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of changes, but ultimately, like, this is much better than what I had before. This was awful. How the heck did I approve of that? Like, this is, yeah. The difference is quite crazy. I am going to do one final thing before I end the stream here. I have a feeling I do need... So, like, because wolf ears can be... like, ears in general can be pretty transparent, I'm going to add a bit of reds to the wolf ears. Actually does look pretty good. I'll have to fix it up, but, like, adding a little bit of red there was actually... like, it kind of looks pretty cool here. The thing with creatures and stuff, I do have to be wary that yes, these are still flesh beings, so like they will have properties of flesh when they are being lit. Even if they're being lit by really strong blue light, there should be some indication that there's a little bit of fleshiness to their bodies. So like right now I'm feeling this wolf will have to change, but other than that, like, the environment itself is much stronger. I'll figure it out, but for now, I'm gonna end the stream like this. This was a pretty productive one, because I really don't like doing environments. So like forcing myself to stream it is actually a good thing here. It makes it a little bit easier to digest. But again, like to finish off, I will be moving on to Twitch by next week. So I'll be putting the link all throughout this Discord, and just change the tiers a bit. Thank you, everyone. Change the tiers a bit so that patrons will still get some benefit from subscribing. But I'm not killing myself doing 2 streams a week. And also, like, viewership has been going down because of schooling, everything's opening again, and general disinterest. So I'm hoping having 1 stream instead will kind of funnel everyone together to see if there's going to be more viewership happening. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Yeah, no worries. Like in terms of Patreon, don't worry too much about whatever. I understand everybody has like they're in different parts of the world, and can be very hard to support my work on Patreon, sort of thing. So don't take it as a pressure thing. Just but hopefully the new Twitch streaming system will be very helpful for everyone who isn't a patron as well, and we'll see you from there. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.